They will weave in those little pieces of humor in there and got everybody going. So we look forward to your next humorous speaking manual. You have until the end of June 2020 to keep presenting humorous speaking manuals. Now we move on to our third speaker, who I have not been in the same room with for quite some time. And where are you now? Right now, are you in New Zealand?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Yeah. In the middle of summer in New Zealand, that's celebrating right. Christmas.
That's right.
I have to do that someday, either New Zealand or Australia. I will be there.
And Brian, I'm happy to introduce Lorraine's speech today as her evaluator.
Okay.
And I can do that all the way from over here in Australia. We're only 2 hours difference between Lorraine and I today. So is that all right with you, Santa?
Carry on, Carol.
Thank you so much. Let's pick up the pace here today, folks. Let's get some change happening. And who better to ask to talk about change than our own Lorraine Taylor? Now, she's been through many, many, many changes. Toastmasters is one of them and all of the things that go with it. But in her role as an author and travelling the world, there's much she can talk to us about. Today, Lorraine is going to talk about the skills that we need to communicate change. In fact, she's going to demonstrate the skills you need to communicate change. So this particular speech is from Visionary Communication, and it's level 4, one of the electives, Communicate Change. And I'll be on your side here writing notes, Lorraine. The title for Lorraine's speech is Now and Then, and the length of the speech is 5 to 7, Mr. Timer. With Now and Then, let us now hear from Lorraine Taylor.
This year, I celebrated my 28th wedding anniversary. And on the day, my husband, Wayne, and I were reflecting on what it was like back then and how it is now. I remember the first gift that Wayne ever gave me. It was a dog. And he said, "No, that's the dog." I had an inkling then there needed to be a bit of cultural understanding because this is an iconic dog from New Zealand. Well, now, actually just 2 months ago, Wayne gave me another gift on my birthday, and I bet you can't guess what it is. Another dog, 28 years later. Gifts back then and gifts now. Some things just never change. Wayne and I met whilst we were both living and working in Papua New Guinea. And I lived in a very remote place in the highlands, accessible only by small aircraft. One day, Christine, my fellow teaching friend, was having a birthday party, and she had invited some of the pilots. I was standing, watching out the window, and noticed one of the airplanes, small ones, coming in. The high school truck screamed down to the airstrip to pick up the pilots. Then, very oddly, the truck kept stopping at each house on the way back. Upon arrival, Wayne and Jay jumped out of the truck with 2 big, beautiful bouquets of flowers that they had nicked from the houses in the village on the way up. That was back then. Now it's Wayne standing at the window, watching the young men that are coming to his house to visit his 2 daughters that have grown into beautiful young ladies. He's keeping a close eye on the flowers in the front garden as well. Young people in love. Back then and now, some things just never change. In Papua New Guinea, Wayne flew the small planes, carting passengers and supplies around the rugged countryside. Amongst the pilots, there existed this competition. Mine's bigger than yours. When Wayne was flying the Islander, he would always look down on the 406 pilots and say, "Mine's bigger than yours." When Wayne just completed 20 years working with Emirates Airlines, the pilots, well, they're older, they're grayer, believe me, they're a lot more grumpy, and they're still having the same competition. "Mine's bigger than yours." Luckily for Wayne, he seems to be winning most of these arguments, as he's now flying the largest passenger aircraft in the world, the Airbus 380. Mine's bigger than yours, back then and now. Some things just never change. But wait a minute. We live in a world of change. So much has changed from back then until now. Today, businesses are focusing on change management. And psychologists and counselors are trying to assist people to deal with this stress and the anxiety of change. And each one of us know that change we have in our pockets, it just doesn't buy what it used to. Despite all the many changes that have occurred, I am comforted by the fact that, some things just really never do change. Last month, I moved into the Christchurch area in New Zealand. And once again, I have found neighbors and people in the community that are kind and helpful. I have found a passionate group of people, Toastmasters, that skillfully take messages. They wrap them in stories and share them, as we are doing here tonight. In fact, before the written word, humans were taking messages. They were wrapping them in stories and sharing them, so that those messages would be remembered. Yes, we do live in a world of great changes from back then until now. But don't you agree? It's comforting to know that some things just never change. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lorraine. Yes, I agree. Being an historian, you can go back